My name is Ava Hartley. For the past 5 years, I've been a senior software engineer at Veltric Dynamics, one of the leading companies in AI-powered automated manufacturing systems. I'm 35 years old, I have 2 engineering degrees, and right now I'm watching the woman who stole my life's work crash and burn in spectacular fashion. I'm sitting in the back row of our corporate auditorium, trying to keep my face neutral as Clarissa Shaw gestures dramatically at the projection screen behind her. Her navy blue blazer is immaculate, her blonde hair styled in that perfect corporate bob that somehow never moves, and her voice carries confidently across the room as she presents my AI manufacturing coordination system to the entire executive board and our major investors. As you can see, Clarissa says, clicking to the next slide, a slide I designed, our proprietary algorithm optimizes production flow by predicting bottlenecks before they occur. The system continuously learns from operational data, creating a self-improving manufacturing ecosystem. Those are my words. That's my code running in the background. That's my algorithm processing the demonstration data. Yet my name doesn't appear anywhere in her 45-slide presentation. I glance around the room. The executives are nodding, impressed. The investors are leaning forward in their seats. Clarissa has them captivated with promises of efficiency improvements and cost reductions that will revolutionize industrial manufacturing. And technically, she's not wrong. The system will deliver all of that. I designed it to do exactly that. But I'm not the one who will get the credit, the promotion, or the bonus that will inevitably follow this presentation. I check my watch and take a deep breath. 10 minutes until the live demonstration portion begins. 10 minutes until Clarissa attempts to show the board how the system responds to real-time manufacturing challenges. 10 minutes until everything falls apart. I should feel guilty. I should feel some professional obligation to stop what's about to happen. But as I watch her bask in the applause following her explanation of the system's machine learning capabilities, which again, I coded, I can't bring myself to feel anything but a cold, determined satisfaction. 8 months of my life went into this project. 8 months of late nights, skipped weekends, and canceled plans. 8 months of innovation, problem solving, and breakthroughs. And in less than 6 months, Clarissa had systematically erased my contributions and positioned herself as the visionary behind it all. So I'm not going to stop what's coming. I'm going to watch it happen, and then I'm going to walk across town to Rendrix Technologies, Veltric's biggest competitor, and show them what the system can really do when it's in the hands of its actual creator. I wasn't always this calculating. 6 months ago, I was just an engineer who loved solving complex problems. The idea came to me during a routine production analysis meeting. Veltric had been struggling with efficiency issues in our client implementations. Our AI systems were good, better than most on the market, but they still required too much human oversight and couldn't adapt quickly enough to unexpected changes in production variables. I remember sitting in that conference room, staring at a wall of manufacturing metrics from our biggest client when it hit me. What if the AI didn't just follow optimization patterns we programmed? What if it could teach itself to identify inefficiencies we hadn't even considered? That night I stayed late and drafted a proposal for a new kind of manufacturing AI, one that could observe, learn, and improve itself without constant human guidance. I called it the Manufacturing Intelligent Recursive Algorithm, or MIRA for short. The next morning I sent my proposal to Marcus Velton, our CEO, and Janet Fry, our CTO. By afternoon I had meeting invitations from both of them. This is exactly the kind of innovation we need, Ava, Marcus had said, leaning back in his chair with an impressed smile. The self-learning aspect could be a game-changer for us. Janet was even more enthusiastic. The recursive optimization approach is brilliant. How soon can you have a proof of concept? I told them I could have something preliminary in 3 months, with a full working prototype in 6. They gave me a small team, resources, and the green light to prioritize the project. That's when Clarissa entered the picture. Clarissa Shaw was a mid-level manager who had transferred to our department from marketing about a year earlier. She had no technical background but had quickly established herself as someone who could translate complex technical concepts for the executive team. In reality, she was exceptionally good at taking engineers' work, repackaging it in corporate buzzwords, and presenting it as collaborative efforts she had guided. 3 days after my meeting with Marcus and Janet, Clarissa stopped by my desk. "Ava, I just heard about your AI project," she said, perching on the edge of my desk uninvited. "It sounds fascinating. The executive team is really excited about it." I remember being surprised she already knew about it. "Thanks. I'm just getting started on the preliminary architecture." "Well, I've been asked to help manage the project from the business side," she said, smiling broadly. "You know, interfacing with the executives, handling the reporting, making sure you have everything you need. We're going to make a great team." I should have seen the warning signs right then. Clarissa hadn't been asked to do anything. She had volunteered herself after hearing about a high-visibility project. But I was focused on the technical challenges, not office politics, so I just nodded and went back to my work. The first few weeks were fine. I assembled a small team of 2 junior engineers to help with specific components while I handled the core algorithm development. Clarissa set up weekly status meetings and created project tracking documents. She seemed helpful, if a bit overeager to be included in technical discussions she clearly didn't understand. The first real red flag appeared about a month into the project. I had scheduled a meeting with Janet to discuss some technical challenges we were facing with the learning algorithm. When I arrived at Janet's office, Clarissa was already there. "Hope you don't mind," she said brightly. I thought I should sit in to stay up to date on the project status. Throughout the meeting, Clarissa interjected with questions and comments that derailed the technical discussion. Worse, she began using "we" when describing the development work to Janet. "We're making excellent progress on the core algorithms," she said at one point, as if she had written a single line of code. I corrected her gently. "The team is working through some complex machine learning challenges, but I think we found a promising approach." Janet seemed not to notice the distinction, and the meeting ended with action items assigned to the team rather than to specific people. After that, Clarissa began inserting herself into every aspect of the project. She started scheduling meetings with other department heads without including me. When I asked about them afterward, she would say they were just brief updates or business discussions that wouldn't interest you. 2 months into development, we had our first major breakthrough. I had been struggling with getting the algorithm to efficiently process manufacturing variables across different types of production environments. One night, while working late, I realized we could use a modified form of transfer learning to allow the system to apply insights from one manufacturing context to another without complete retraining. The next morning, I excitedly shared the breakthrough with my small technical team. We spent the day implementing a proof of concept, and by evening we had a demonstration ready that showed how the system could adapt optimization strategies between completely different manufacturing processes. I emailed Janet and Marcus to share the news, with Clarissa copied on the email. Within minutes, Clarissa replied to all, "This is fantastic work by the team. I'll set up a demonstration for the executive committee tomorrow morning." The next morning I arrived early to set up the demonstration, only to find Clarissa already in the conference room with Janet and Marcus. "Ah, Ava, perfect timing," Clarissa said. "I was just walking Janet and Marcus through the breakthrough the team achieved yesterday." What followed was surreal. Clarissa proceeded to present my work as if she had been intimately involved in its development. She used technical terms incorrectly but with such confidence that neither Janet nor Marcus seemed to notice. When I tried to clarify or correct her, she would smile and say things like, "Yes, that's a more technical way of explaining what I just said." By the end of the meeting, both Janet and Marcus were congratulating the team on the progress, with special acknowledgement to Clarissa for driving the project forward. I left that meeting in a daze, unsure of what had just happened. Had Clarissa really just taken credit for my breakthrough? And had our CEO and CTO actually believed her? Over the next few months, the pattern intensified. Clarissa began excluding me from strategic meetings about the project. She started communicating directly with my team members, asking for updates and materials that she would then present to leadership without my input. Internal emails about the project gradually shifted from including both our names to listing only Clarissa, with me copied as an afterthought. In one particularly galling instance, I discovered that Clarissa had given an interview to a tech publication about her team's innovative approach to self-learning manufacturing AI. The article mentioned Veltric's exciting new direction under the leadership of Clarissa Shaw and included a quote from her about the collaborative development process she was spearheading. There was no mention of me at all. When I confronted her about it, Clarissa seemed genuinely surprised by my frustration. "Ava, this is how corporate visibility works," she said, as if explaining something to a child. "The executives don't want to hear from engineers. They want to hear from managers who can put technical achievements into business context. I'm helping your work get the recognition it deserves." "By taking credit for it?" I asked incredulously. "I always talk about the team," she said, frowning slightly. "I've never claimed to have developed the algorithm myself. But you're positioning yourself as the project leader when you're supposed to be supporting the actual development team, which I lead." Clarissa's expression hardened momentarily before she forced a smile. "I think you're being a bit sensitive, Ava. We all know you're doing the technical work, but this project needs someone who can communicate its value to the business. That's my contribution." I walked away from that conversation seething, but also increasingly aware of my naivety. While I had been focused on solving technical problems, Clarissa had been playing a different game entirely, one of perception and politics, and she was winning. The final straw came 4 months into the project. I had been working on a crucial component of the system, the ability to self-correct when it encountered unexpected manufacturing variables. This was the feature that would truly set our system apart from competitors. After weeks of work, I had finally created an elegant solution that worked seamlessly. I documented my approach carefully and shared it with my team members for testing. I also sent a detailed email to Janet explaining the breakthrough and its significance for the project. As usual, I copied Clarissa. The next day, I received a meeting invitation from Marcus' assistant for a Mira project strategic review scheduled for the following morning. Clarissa was listed as the meeting organizer, but my name wasn't even on the attendee list. I forwarded the invitation to Clarissa with a simple question: was this an oversight? Her reply came an hour later. "This is a highly strategic discussion about market positioning and rollout timing. Janet suggested keeping it focused on the business aspects rather than technical details. I'll update you afterward on any decisions that affect development." I stared at that email for a long time, feeling something shift inside me. This wasn't just office politics anymore. This was my life's work being systematically co-opted, and I had been letting it happen. That night, I didn't go home after work. Instead, I sat in my office with the lights off, thinking. I could escalate the situation to HR, but what would I say? That a manager was taking too much credit for a project? Without explicit evidence of misconduct, it would look like professional jealousy on my part. I could confront Marcus or Janet directly, but Clarissa had been carefully cultivating her relationships with them for months. Would they take the word of an engineer over a manager they now saw as driving a key strategic initiative? As I sat there in the dark, a new idea began to take shape, one that had nothing to do with internal complaints or confrontations. If Veltrix and Clarissa wanted to play corporate games with my work, perhaps it was time for me to play by different rules entirely. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Instead of going to the office, I visited a corporate attorney who specialized in intellectual property. "I want to protect my work," I told her, "without violating my employment agreement." Linda Jo was a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer in her 50s who had built her practice helping tech workers navigate the complex world of IP rights. She listened carefully as I explained my situation, occasionally making notes. Your employment contract with Veltrix likely gives them ownership of anything you develop while employed there, especially if it's related to their business and you use their resources, she said when I finished. But there might be another approach. She explained that while I couldn't claim ownership of the specific implementation I developed at Veltrix, the core concepts and innovations might be protectable if I developed them independently into something new and sufficiently different. You need to be extremely careful, Linda warned. No using Veltrix code, no working on company time, and no using company resources. You need to document everything meticulously to prove independent development. And I'd need to create something better, I added, an idea already forming. Linda gave me a measured smile. Substantially different and better would certainly strengthen your position. That afternoon, I formed Iron Willow Systems LLC. I rented a small office space across town, purchased my own development equipment, and began laying the groundwork for what would become the real Mira, not the version Clarissa was parading around Veltrix, but a truly revolutionary system that would make that version look like a child's science project. For the next 2 months, I lived a double life. At Veltrix, I continued working on the official Mira project, doing just enough to meet expectations but no longer volunteering innovations or improvements. I watched silently as Clarissa took more and more control, excluding me from meetings and decisions while continuing to position herself as the visionary behind the project. Nights and weekends belonged to Iron Willow. I rebuilt Mira from the ground up, incorporating the lessons learned from the Veltrix version but taking the concept much further. The new Mira wasn't just for manufacturing, it was a universal coordination AI that could optimize processes across industries, from supply chain logistics to healthcare operations. I meticulously documented every step of my independent development process. I recorded video logs of my work sessions. I had every notebook notarized. I even hired a respected AI ethics consultant to periodically review my progress and provide dated feedback, creating an unimpeachable timeline of independent creation. The dual workload was exhausting, but each time I felt my resolve weaken, I would encounter another example of Clarissa's appropriation of my work at Veltrix, an internal newsletter highlighting her innovative leadership, an all-hands meeting where she presented project milestones as her team's achievements, a company blog post where she explained her approach to self-learning algorithms. Each slight fueled my determination to create something so undeniably superior that no one could question who the true innovator was. 3 weeks ago, Clarissa announced to the Veltrix executive team that the mirror system was ready for a full demonstration. She scheduled a major presentation for today, a showcase for the board of directors, key investors, and even some industry analysts. It would be Veltrix's moment to reveal their revolutionary new product to the world. What Clarissa couldn't know, was that the Veltrix version of Mira had a fundamental flaw in its adaptation mechanism. It wasn't a flaw I had introduced intentionally. It was simply a limitation I had discovered during my independent development, but never addressed in the Veltrix version because by then Clarissa had effectively sidelined me from core development decisions. The flaw would only manifest under specific circumstances that happened to match exactly the demonstration scenario Clarissa had planned. I knew this because Raj Patel, one of the junior engineers on my team who had become increasingly uncomfortable with Clarissa's behavior, had been keeping me informed of the demonstration preparations. She's planning to show how the system adapts to a simulated supply shortage, Raj told me quietly over coffee last week. She's going to introduce a 50% reduction in raw materials and show how the system reconfigures the production process in real time. I nodded slowly, feeling a chill of recognition. That specific scenario, a sudden, large-scale resource constraint, was precisely what would trigger the flaw. The system would attempt to recalculate too many variables simultaneously, creating a cascading failure in its decision tree. Has she run that exact scenario in testing? I asked, already knowing the answer. Raj shook his head. She doesn't think we need to. She says the system can handle any scenario we throw at it. I could have warned her. I could have suggested additional testing. I could have explained the potential issue and how to avoid it. I did none of those things. Instead, I finalized my version of Mira and reached out to Daniel Chen, the CTO of Rennick Technologies, Veltrix's largest competitor. I've developed something you might find interesting, I wrote in a carefully worded email. An entirely new approach to process optimization AI, developed independently through my company, Iron Willow Systems. Daniel's response came within hours, expressing interest in seeing a demonstration. We scheduled it for today, 1 hour after Clarissa's presentation at Veltrix. Which brings me back to this moment, sitting in the back row of the Veltrix auditorium, watching Clarissa bask in applause as she concludes the presentation portion of today's event. And now, she says with practiced confidence, I'd like to demonstrate how Mira performs in a real-world manufacturing crisis scenario. The lights dim slightly as she moves to a control console set up at the front of the room. Behind her, the large screen displays a simplified visualization of a manufacturing floor, conveyor belts, robotic arms, assembly stations, all represented in a clean, modern interface. Our system is currently running a standard production simulation, Clarissa explains. Everything is operating at optimal efficiency. But what happens when disaster strikes? She presses a button on the console with theatrical flourish. On the screen, a warning flashes: supply chain disruption, raw materials reduced by 50%. In a traditional manufacturing environment, this kind of disruption would cause production to halt while human managers redesign the entire process, Clarissa continues. But watch what happens with Mira. The visualization shows the simulated factory beginning to reconfigure itself. Robotic arms adjust their patterns. Conveyor speeds change. Assembly priorities shift. For about 30 seconds, everything seems to be working as intended. Clarissa is narrating the changes with growing excitement, pointing out how the system is intelligently reallocating resources to maintain production of high-priority items while minimizing waste. Then it happens. First, a small error message appears in the corner of the screen. Clarissa doesn't notice it, continuing her enthusiastic explanation. Then another error appears, and another. Suddenly, the entire visualization freezes. The error messages multiply, filling the screen with red warnings. The simulation control panel begins flashing a critical failure alert. Clarissa falters mid-sentence. This is just a minor, she frantically taps at the control console trying to restore the system. Nothing happens. Then, in a final dramatic flourish that I couldn't have scripted better myself, the entire demonstration system crashes. The screen goes black, then returns to the standard Veltrix logo. The auditorium falls silent. Marcus Velton stands up from his seat in the front row, his expression a mixture of confusion and anger. Clarissa, what's happening? It's just a temporary, the system is very complex and sometimes during demonstrations, Clarissa stammers, her composure completely shattered. Janet Fry joins Marcus at the front. Has this happened in testing? Not exactly this scenario. But you didn't test the exact demonstration you planned to show the board? Janet's voice is incredulous. The system should be able to handle any scenario, Clarissa insists, her voice rising slightly. That's what it was designed to do. From my seat in the back, I can see the executives exchanging concerned glances. The investors are whispering to each other. This is not the revolutionary technology showcase they were promised. Marcus attempts to salvage the situation. Perhaps we should take a short break while the technical team resolves this issue. Clarissa, can you get Ava and the engineers to take a look? And there it is, the moment Clarissa has been dreading. After months of sidelining me, she's now forced to acknowledge that she needs my technical expertise. She scans the room, finally spotting me in the back row. Ava, can you come help with this? Her voice is tight, her smile strained. I stand up slowly, gathering my things. I'm sorry, Clarissa, but I have another appointment I can't miss. I'm sure you and your team can figure it out. I emphasize those two words just enough that she understands the message. Her face pales slightly. But you're the lead engineer, she says, an edge of panic in her voice. Am I? I ask innocently. That's not what the project documentation indicates, or the press releases, or your presentation today. The room has gone uncomfortably quiet. Everyone is watching our exchange. This isn't the time for, Clarissa begins. But I cut her off. You're right. It isn't. Good luck with your demonstration, Clarissa. I'm sure you'll figure it out, since you understand the system so well. I walk out of the auditorium without looking back, feeling the weight of dozens of stares. As the door closes behind me, I hear Marcus beginning to ask questions about the system's stability and readiness for market, questions that Clarissa cannot answer. 20 minutes later, I'm sitting in a similar auditorium at Rennick Technologies, but in very different circumstances. Instead of hiding in the back row, I'm at the front of the room, preparing to demonstrate the real Mira system to Daniel Chen and his executive team. Thank you for making time to see this demonstration, I begin, making eye contact with each person in the small audience. What I'm about to show you is a completely new approach to process optimization AI, developed independently by my company, Iron Willow Systems. I explain the core concepts behind Mira clearly and concisely, being careful to emphasize how it differs from existing solutions on the market, including anything Veltrix might eventually bring to market. I walk through the technical architecture without dumbing it down, and Daniel and his team follow along with genuine interest and intelligent questions. When it's time for the demonstration, I don't resort to theatrics. I simply show the system responding to increasingly complex challenges, including the exact scenario that crashed Clarissa's demonstration. Mira handles it flawlessly, not only maintaining critical production but actually improving overall efficiency by discovering novel approaches to resource allocation. When I introduce additional complications, equipment failures, staffing shortages, quality control issues, the system adapts in real time, continuously learning and improving its response strategies. By the end of the hour-long demonstration, Daniel and his team are visibly impressed. This is remarkable technology, Ava, Daniel says as the lights come back up. What are your plans for it? I'm looking for the right partner to bring it to market, I reply honestly. A company that understands its potential and has the resources to implement it at scale. And how did you develop this independently? This level of innovation usually requires substantial resources. I smile slightly. I've been working in this field for a long time. Sometimes the best innovations happen when you strip away corporate constraints and focus purely on solving the problem the right way. Daniel nods thoughtfully. I'd like to continue this conversation. Would you be open to discussing partnership options? I would, I say, feeling a weight lifting from my shoulders. I think Iron Willow and Rennick could do something extraordinary together. As we shake hands, my phone buzzes with notifications. I ignore it for now, focusing on answering the technical questions Daniel's team has about Myra's capabilities. It's only later, sitting in a coffee shop after the meeting, that I check my messages. There are several missed calls and texts from Raj, updating me on the aftermath of Clarissa's failed demonstration. Complete disaster, one message reads. Board meeting called to discuss project viability. Clarissa blaming technical team for last-minute changes. Another message sent an hour later. Janet asking where you are. Clarissa suggested you sabotage the demo. I smile grimly at that. Of course she would try to shift the blame. It's what she's always done. The final message from Raj is the most interesting. Marcus asking to see all project documentation and code commits. Janet reviewing development history. So they're finally looking at who actually built the system. It's too late for Veltrix, but at least the truth will come out internally. My phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. I consider ignoring it but decide to answer. Ava Hartley? Ms. Hartley, this is Simon Blackwell, VP of Operations at Veltrix Dynamics. His voice is formal, controlled. Marcus Velton has asked me to reach out to you regarding today's demonstration issues. I'm no longer involved with that project, Mr. Blackwell, I reply calmly. As I'm sure the development records will show, I was removed from key decisions months ago. That's becoming apparent, he says after a pause. Marcus would like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss the situation and potential remedies. I'm afraid I have a full day of meetings tomorrow, I say, thinking of my scheduled follow-up with Daniel and the Rennick legal team. And to be frank, I'm not sure what there is to discuss at this point. Ava, Ms. Hartley, there may have been some unfortunate misunderstandings regarding project attribution. Marcus is very interested in correcting any oversights that may have occurred. I almost laugh at the corporate doublespeak, oversights, misunderstandings, as if Clarissa's systematic campaign to steal credit for my work was just an administrative error. Please tell Marcus I appreciate his concern, but I've moved on to other opportunities. I pause, then add, I suspect Veltrix will need to do the same regarding Mira. The current implementation has fundamental flaws that would take months to address. There's a long silence on the other end of the line. I see, Simon finally says. May I ask what other opportunities you're pursuing? Nothing I can discuss at this time, I reply. But I'm sure you'll hear about it soon enough. After ending the call, I sit back and consider my position. Things are moving quickly now. By tomorrow, Veltrix will fully understand what they've lost. By next week, when the partnership with Rennick is finalized, the industry will begin to understand it too. My phone buzzes again, an email from Clarissa. The subject line reads simply, "We need to talk." I open it, curious about what she could possibly say now. Ava. I don't know what happened with the demonstration today, but we need to resolve this situation immediately. The board is asking questions I can't answer about the technical implementation. I need your help to salvage this project. Can we meet privately to discuss how to move forward? I'm sure we can work out any misunderstandings about project contributions. The email continues with vague promises about ensuring proper recognition and the potential for joint leadership of the project moving forward. It's a desperate attempt to save herself, not a genuine acknowledgement of what she did. I delete the email without replying. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in a conference room at Rennick's headquarters finalizing the partnership agreement between Iron Willow Systems and Rennick Technologies. The terms are better than I could have hoped for: substantial upfront payment for the Mira technology, ongoing royalties from implementations, and a key advisory role for me in further development while maintaining my independence through Iron Willow. Daniel slides the signed contract across the table to me. Welcome to the future, Ava. I think we're going to change the world with this technology. I sign my name and feel a sense of closure. That's the plan. As we're wrapping up the meeting, Daniel's assistant knocks and enters. I thought you might want to see this, she says, handing Daniel a tablet. He glances at it, eyebrows rising, then passes it to me. It's a business news article with the headline, Veltrix Dynamics announces restructuring amid project failure. Shaw and others out. The article details how Veltrix's much-anticipated AI manufacturing system had proven fundamentally flawed during final testing. As a result, several key executives and project leaders, including Clarissa Shaw, had been separated from the company. The article also mentions that Veltrix's stock had dropped 15% following the news. Tough break for your former employer, Daniel comments, watching my reaction. I hand the tablet back with a neutral expression. The technology business can be unforgiving. Indeed. He studies me for a moment. You know, we've heard through the grapevine that Clarissa Shaw has been telling people she was the victim of sabotage, that a resentful engineer deliberately undermined her project. I meet his gaze steadily. The development records would show otherwise. The flaws in Veltrix's system were architectural, built into its foundation months ago. No last-minute sabotage could have created those issues. Daniel nods slowly. That's what our technical team concluded when they compared it to your implementation. Your version seems to have anticipated and solved problems the Veltrix system never even recognized. I had the advantage of learning from earlier mistakes, I say carefully. Sometimes you have to build something twice to get it right. He accepts this explanation with a small smile. Well, their loss is certainly our gain. The first Mira implementation goes live next month at our Singapore facility. The client is very excited. As I leave Rennick that afternoon, I check my phone and find another email from Clarissa V. Since her dismissal from Veltrix, like the others, this one alternates between thinly veiled accusations and desperate pleas for help. You must know that what happened wasn't entirely my fault, she writes. Corporate politics forced both of us to play certain roles. I'm meeting with several potential employers next week, and a recommendation from you regarding our collaborative work could make a significant difference. I delete this email like all the others. There will be no recommendation, no help, no response of any kind. Clarissa made her choices and now she's living with the consequences. 2 months later, Mira has been successfully implemented in 3 major manufacturing facilities, with a dozen more in the pipeline. The industry is buzzing about the revolutionary technology from Rendrix, and Iron Willow's value as a company has increased tenfold. I've moved into a new apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. On my desk sits a framed copy of the cover of Technical Innovation Monthly featuring an article about the woman behind manufacturing's AI revolution, Ava Hartley, and the development of Mira. The article tells the true story of Mira's development, including my years of experience in the field and the independent creation through Iron Willow. There's no mention of Veltrix or Clarissa. They're irrelevant to the story of actual innovation. My phone rings. It's Linda Shao, my attorney. Have you seen it? She asks without preamble. Seen what? I reply. Check your email. Veltrix filed suit against you this morning. I open my laptop and find the forwarded legal documents. Veltrix is claiming that Mira was developed using their proprietary information and resources in violation of my employment agreement. They're seeking an injunction against further implementations and substantial damages. They don't have a case, Linda says confidently. Your documentation of independent development is impeccable. But they're desperate. Their stock is down 40% since the Mira failure, and they've lost 3 major clients to Rendrix. So this is just harassment, I say, feeling a flicker of anger. Essentially. They're hoping to slow down Rendrix's momentum and maybe force a settlement. Standard corporate tactics when they've been outmaneuvered. How do we respond? Aggressively, Linda says without hesitation. I've already contacted Rendrix's legal team. They're fully behind you. They've verified the independence of your work and they're preparing a robust defense and countersuit. Veltrix picked the wrong fight. After ending the call, I stand by the window looking out at the city below. I should feel anxious about the lawsuit, but instead I feel strangely calm. I've planned for this possibility from the beginning, documenting every step of Mira's independent development precisely to counter such claims. My phone chimes with a text from Daniel. Just heard about the Veltrix nonsense. Don't worry, we've got your back. Our legal team calls their lawsuit wishful fiction. Business as usual for Mira rollout. I smile at his message, appreciating the support. Then another notification appears, an email from Marcus Velton himself, the first direct communication I've received from him since leaving Veltrix. The subject line reads, Potential Resolution. Curious, I open it. Ava, I hope this message finds you well. The recent legal filing was not my preference, but our board felt action was necessary to protect company interests. Before this escalates further, I'd like to discuss a potential resolution that could benefit all parties. Would you be open to a private conversation? I consider the offer for a moment. Is there any value in hearing what Marcus has to say? Perhaps it's a genuine attempt to resolve the situation without protracted litigation, or perhaps it's just another corporate maneuver. I decide there's no harm in listening, so I reply with a brief agreement to meet, suggesting a public location, a coffee shop I like near the waterfront. Marcus responds almost immediately, accepting the suggestion and proposing a time the following afternoon. The next day, I arrive at the coffee shop early and choose a table with a view of both the entrance and the harbor beyond. Marcus arrives precisely on time, looking more worn than I remember. The confident CEO has been replaced by a man under pressure, with new lines around his eyes and a slight stoop to his shoulders. "Thank you for meeting me, Ava," he says, sitting down across from me. "I appreciate your willingness to talk." "I'm always open to reasonable discussions," I reply neutrally. "What did you want to talk about?" Marcus takes a deep breath. "First, I want to acknowledge that mistakes were made at Veltrix regarding your contributions to the Mira project. The internal review we conducted after the demonstration incident revealed a pattern of your work being inappropriately attributed to others. It's a carefully worded non-apology, but still more than I expected." "That's one way of putting it," I say. "Yes, well." He shifts uncomfortably. "What happened was unfortunate. Clarissa Shaw's management style proved problematic in ways we failed to recognize until too late." "Clarissa was a symptom, not the disease," I reply. "Veltrix created a culture where taking credit for others' work was rewarded. She just played the game better than most." Marcus winces slightly but doesn't argue the point. "Perhaps. But that's actually why I wanted to speak with you. The board has recognized the need for significant cultural changes at Veltrix. We're implementing new processes for project attribution and recognition of technical contributions." "That's commendable," I say, genuinely meaning it. "But what does it have to do with your lawsuit against me?" He leans forward. "Ava, the lawsuit is a negotiating position, not a vendetta. What we really want is to bring you back to Veltrix in a leadership role. You could help us rebuild our approach to innovation, while we drop the litigation and offer appropriate compensation for the oversights regarding Mira." I stare at him, momentarily speechless. Of all the possibilities I had considered, this wasn't one of them. "You want me to come back?" I finally ask. "Everything that happened?" With a substantial promotion and equity package, Marcus confirms. "You'd have direct reporting lines to the executive committee and full authority over technical direction in your division." "And what about my partnership with Rendrix?" Marcus waves a hand dismissively. "Part of the negotiation. We could discuss licensing arrangements, technology sharing, or other accommodations." I sit back, processing the offer. On the surface, it's what I wanted all along: recognition of my contributions, a leadership position, the ability to drive technical innovation. But that was before Clarissa, before Iron Willow, before I discovered what I could accomplish on my own terms. "I appreciate the offer, Marcus," I say after a long moment, "but I'm not interested in returning to Veltrix. My work with Rendrix and Iron Willow is just beginning, and I believe it's where I can make the greatest impact." He looks genuinely surprised. "You're turning down a senior leadership position?" "The compensation package would be extremely generous." "It's not about the money or the title," I explain. "It's about working in an environment where innovation is truly valued and properly attributed from the start. I found that at Rendrix, and I'm not willing to give it up." Marcus sits back, studying me with new respect. "I underestimated you, Ava. Not just your technical abilities, but your resolve." "Many people have," I acknowledge. "It's not a mistake I recommend repeating." "So where does this leave us with the lawsuit?" I meet his gaze directly. "Drop it. It's meritless, as your legal team has surely informed you." I have exhaustive documentation of Mira's independent development. Fighting this will only cost Veltrix more money and public goodwill. He considers this, then nods slowly. I'll bring your response to the board. For what it's worth, I think they'll agree that pursuing this further isn't in anyone's best interest. As he stands to leave, Marcus extends his hand. Despite everything, I wish you success, Ava. You've earned it. I shake his hand firmly. Thank you. I hope Veltrix finds its way forward as well. 3 days later, Linda calls to inform me that Veltrix has withdrawn their lawsuit. A week after that, they announce a strategic restructuring to focus on their core business areas, effectively abandoning their attempts to compete in the advanced AI manufacturing space. Life moves on. Iron Willow grows from a one-woman operation to a respected boutique AI firm with 15 employees. Our partnership with Rendrix expands to include applications of Mira technology in healthcare, logistics, and energy management. My name appears regularly in industry publications discussing the future of AI and process optimization. 6 months after the failed Veltrix demonstration, I'm invited to speak at the International Conference on Industrial Automation, the industry's most prestigious annual event. My presentation on Mira's adaptive learning mechanisms and cross-industry applications draws the largest audience of the conference. As I'm gathering my materials after the talk, a conference organizer approaches me. Ms. Hartley, there's someone who's been waiting to speak with you. I turn, half expecting to see Clarissa or someone else from my Veltrix past. Instead, I find myself face to face with Dr. Elena Mirova, the legendary AI pioneer whose early work on recursive learning algorithms had inspired aspects of Mira. Dr. Mirova, I say, genuinely surprised, it's an honor to meet you. The honor is mine, she replies with a warm smile. Your work with Mira represents the kind of practical application of theoretical principles that I've always hoped to see. You've taken concepts that existed mainly in academic papers and transformed them into systems that solve real-world problems. We talk for nearly an hour, discussing the theoretical underpinnings of Mira and potential future directions for the technology. As our conversation winds down, Dr. Mirova mentions that she's chairing a committee to select the recipients of the Kaufman Prize for Innovation in Applied Artificial Intelligence, one of the field's highest honors. I would be very interested in seeing a nomination for your work on Mira, she says meaningfully. The deadline is next month. 2 months later, I'm standing on a stage accepting the Kaufman Prize, looking out at an audience of the most respected names in the field. My acceptance speech is brief, focusing on the technical challenges overcome in Mira's development and expressing gratitude to those whose theoretical work made it possible. I don't mention Veltrix. I don't mention Clarissa. They're footnotes in a story that has moved far beyond them. At the reception following the award ceremony, I find myself surrounded by well-wishers and potential collaborators. Academic researchers want to discuss Mira's theoretical implications. Industry representatives want to explore potential applications in their fields. It's a heady experience, being recognized not just for commercial success but for genuine innovation. As I'm speaking with a professor from MIT about Mira's potential applications in climate modeling, I notice a familiar figure hovering at the edge of the crowd. Clarissa Shaw, looking significantly less polished than I remember, is watching me with an unreadable expression. I excuse myself from the conversation and approach her, curious about what would bring her to this event. Clarissa, I say neutrally. I didn't expect to see you here. I'm sure you didn't, she replies, her voice tight. I'm working with Neurasync now. Junior business development role. They sent me to the conference to scout potential partnerships. Neurasync is a small, struggling AI firm known more for aggressive marketing than technical innovation. It's quite a step down from her director-level position at Veltrix. I see, I say, unsure what else to add. An uncomfortable silence stretches between us until Clarissa finally speaks again. Congratulations on your award, she says, the words clearly costing her something. The technology is impressive. Thank you, I reply simply. She takes a deep breath. I wanted to tell you that I understand now. What I did at Veltrix, it wasn't right. I got caught up in playing the corporate game and lost sight of what really matters in this industry. I study her face, looking for signs of manipulation or insincerity, but find only resignation and a hint of genuine regret. Why are you telling me this? I ask. Because I've spent the past 6 months watching you succeed while my career imploded, she says with surprising candor. And I've had to face the fact that you succeeded because you built something real while I was just managing perceptions. She pauses, and because I thought you should know that at least one person from your past has learned from their mistakes. I consider her words carefully before responding. I appreciate that, Clarissa. Genuinely. She nods, then gestures vaguely toward the crowd. I should go. My boss wants reports on potential machine learning partnerships, and I've got a lot of catching up to do. As she turns to leave, I find myself saying, Clarissa. She pauses, looking back at me. The most valuable thing I learned at Veltrix wasn't technical, it was understanding the difference between seeming successful and being successful. I hope you find your way to the latter. A ghost of a smile touches her lips. Working on it. Good luck with Mira's next phase. The industry's watching. And with that, she disappears into the crowd, leaving me with an unexpected sense of closure. 1 year after receiving the Kaufman Prize, I'm sitting in the back row of an auditorium at the Global Tech Summit watching a presentation on the future of AI in global manufacturing. On the stage, Daniel Chen is showcasing the results of Mira implementations across 27 manufacturing facilities worldwide, 35% average efficiency improvements, 22% reduction in energy consumption, 41% decrease in material waste. The system that began as my response to corporate politics has become a global force for manufacturing optimization, saving resources, and reducing environmental impact while improving productivity. Iron Willow has grown to 50 employees with offices in 3 countries. Our partnership with Rendrix has expanded into joint research initiatives, pushing Mira's capabilities even further. As Daniel concludes his presentation to enthusiastic applause, he adds one final slide: special recognition to Ava Hartley and the Iron Willow team for their groundbreaking work on Mira's core technology. I smile quietly from my seat in the back row. No grand revenge scheme could have been more satisfying than this, seeing my work recognized, valued, and implemented at global scale while Veltrix has become an afterthought in the industry. Sometimes, success truly is the best revenge. But the real victory wasn't in watching Clarissa fail or seeing Veltrix struggle. It was in breaking free of a system that didn't value true innovation and building something better on my own terms. As the audience files out of the auditorium after Daniel's talk, I remain in my seat, thinking about the journey that brought me here, from frustrated engineer to industry leader, from having my work stolen to creating something no one could take away. I check my phone and see an email from Dr. Morova inviting me to collaborate on a research paper about Mira's theoretical implications for the next generation of self-optimizing systems. The future stretches before me, full of possibilities that I never could have imagined during those dark days at Veltrix. And as I finally stand to leave the auditorium, I feel nothing but gratitude for the crisis that forced me to find my true path. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best thing that happens for you. Clarissa didn't steal my future, she inadvertently pushed me toward a better one. And for that, in a strange way, I almost thank her.